35 views last week. Weird.
Yes, 35 years.
Anyway, Chris wants to say something.
It's only been uploaded.
'Twas
like
brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogroves, and the mome-rates outgrade.
Wait, what?
Wait, are you expecting me to continue the poem or not?
No, now you do the introduction.
Okay.
How is that relevant to the introduction?
It's not.
Okay.
Nothing needs to be relevant.
Intro music, go!
Dun dun.
But before we begin,
No, we did.
a word from our favourite fan, Margaret.
No, please, can we get rid of that? I don't like it.
Oh, okay.
I will edit it out
good.
otherwise.
No, I think it's good.
I hate
I
it.
think that we have our own characters that we can
No.
just bring in to,
I hate
to
it.
exemplify
I
a point.
hate it so
Send it to
much.
Margaret.
Yeah.
No,
Come on.
no.
How could you be that mean? It's like to her face.
It kind of is.
No, I just really
fine.
don't like
Get on
it.
with the intro.
Get on with it, as they say in the band.
For those at home, he's doing the wavy hands.
The wavy hands.
The wavy hands.
Wavy hands and magic fingers.
I wish you could see. I wish you
I
could
can
see this.
hear your hand movements, man. Oh.
Actually, considering that we can't see this, I'm going to
I
give
can
you a
see
very
the
graphic
colours of
description. First, Chris raises his arms just above his elbows.
Wait, which one?
Then he keeping his palms in the same position. He rotates his hands briefly.
No, keeping my arms in the same position. I then rotate my wrists.
Yeah, rotates his wrists briefly, creating a sort of spirit fingers effect, but stationary. That is what we call the wavy hands.
And then I do the magic fingers.
Magic fingers.
Arms outstretched in front, wiggling fingers. Magic fingers.
And if you do that while we're treating, it's called spirit fingers. Tip for all those at home.
So, what if you mix the wavy hands and magic fingers?
Well, you get this. You get
Video
this.
title.
Okay.
Video title. EC. How to do spirit fingers and
And
modify
wavy hands.
hands.
No. Magic fingers and wavy hands. There we go. Magic fingers, wavy hands. Okay. Welcome. Oh, I hit the desk again. Oh no. Welcome to.
You rogue!
Yes, I do play a rogue. Welcome to podcast number 2. Yes, our second podcast. We're keeping this up past 1. Yay.
And hopefully we're going to keep this regular.
No, except that we'll never get past number 2. It will be podcast 2, well, video 2, sorry, not podcast and not a podcast. It will be video 2.
And then the mysterious appearance.
No,
of
and then
three
it will be
corpses.
video episode 1, and then it will be video episode 2, and
Oh,
we'll never get past 2.
We're going to be stuck in a loop. Oh, okay.
So today is the 19th of the 10th, 2012.
It is the 19th of the 8+2 month, 2012.
Yes, but I thought of something. Some of these people who may be listening, maybe in the US, so they'll be thinking it's a really weird date.
Well,
So
that's okay.
today-
No.
today
They
is the
will
19th
learn
of-
how the civilized world
Works dates.
marks its dates.
For our American
For all of you
listeners,
people in the US, before he says something politically correct, you need to learn, and I'm going to point at the phone viciously for this.
He is
Yes,
pointing at the phone.
it's very vicious
viciously.
pointing.
Yes.
No, but it's... Wait, what's the month? I've forgotten what the month name is. Is it October?
It's October, which
Yeah,
is the
okay.
8th month,
Yes.
displaced by 2 points.
Okay.
It's the 8+2
It's the
month.
19th of October. There we go. Podcast number 2 of Explosive Combination.
Yeah. And for our American listeners,
No,
no,
just...
the world does not revolve around you. But we like to think it revolves around us instead.
ourselves.
Ourselves.
Well, to each and every one of us, we are the single most important thing that ever existed. In fact, we are the only thing that ever existed, by definition. Can you prove anything but? No. You are the entire of reality.
And magic fingers.
That's an interesting point to think about later.
Well, it is. Think about it.
We'll have to write these down and bring them up in other podcasts because we've got a pretty full one today. I'm Chris,
I'm Chris.
And I'm Luke,
and we are Explosive Combination.
as we've mentioned before.
Yes. So today, last last week we spoke about the EB Expo, the
I spoke-
Dishonored. Have you gotten any further in Dishonored, Luke?
Yes, I have gotten to Dishonored, and I will let the listeners know how far I've gotten in
Right.
Dishonored.
We talked about Dishonored, LOTRO.
Which I now have a revised review, which is actually significantly more negative than my last one because.
Oh, that's
yeah,
good. I like negativity.
It let me down. It really let me down.
I feed off negativity. Let's do this.
Self-confidence and the warp drive. So.
Yes, it was quite an
It was a
interesting
big
episode
one.
last week. You know,
It was a heavy episode.
and
Yeah.
and guess
Very,
what?
very-
Seeing as this is on the internet, you can always look up the episode before.
Yes.
So if you're feeling interested, go for it.
Yeah, it also
Listen
might.
to our stuff.
It also. I also when I'd uploaded the video, it was really hard to find us.
Yeah, it really was. You
So-
can't just type in explosive combination or EC. You have to type in EC:EB Games Expo, and even then, it's not the first one or the second one. It's the sixth one.
No, well, what I've done is I've made it so you punch in explosive combination, and up comes our channel and our first video. But it's like the fourth or
Yeah,
fifth
it's
one
not
down.
at the top.
Yeah,
It
it's
will-
not at the
it'll
top.
get there,
So just
eventually.
persevere with us, please.
We'll
I
get
think-
there. We'll
Thank
get
you
there.
very much for finding us.
Oh yes,
Thank
congratulations!
you to
if
you,
you
35 people.
Yeah.
That's really good.
and our one subscriber. I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name.
UFO thing on
I can't remember what the name is, but yeah.
Thank you, subscriber.
Yes, thank you for our one subscriber and our 35 views. Everybody, you're great!
Not even we subscribe to this channel yet.
Actually, I haven't, no.
We are this channel.
I am the channel. Anyway, so, yeah, so today I'm talking about multiple universe theory, which is also known as the many worlds interpretation of quantum theory, and a few of my own theories that I've thrown into that.
I'm going to be talking about a personal favorite topic of mine: comic books and the interactions between heroes and villains.
And I am going to be talking about should our humanity in general be marked by our achievements as a race or by our culture as a race.
Yes.
And I would like to say, pose a question to you: where should we have an ultra secret group of people who are unknown except to the people who are exactly responsible for simply telling them what to do? Not even those people can know what's
Told to do.
specifically done in the group.
This is very ambiguous.
That is perfectly that has free reign, pretty much. As in, they can do absolutely anything
So
to
should-
achieve the goal.
Should we have
So like a government.
an unknown technocratic authority?
No, I'm talking more about
technic-
having a Black Ops team, but that is so Black Ops that it's kind of a shadow cloak of nocturnal Black Ops.
Okay.
I like how I just went from super serious
Just-
political governmental conspiracy to
I know this is
video game cloak.
I know this is slightly left field, but hopefully it's not 50 Shades of Grey Ops.
Oh, that's just not
I've
great.
actually heard parts of that read, and
Oh, you poor bloke.
it was an interesting experience to say the least. You know,
Yeah.
because you never quite know what digging your ears out with your fingernails will be quite like until you try, and it is painful. As a result, I've lost hearing in both my ears.
Okay. So which of us is going first? I know we
Chris
organised.
is going first.
Are you going first?
I'm going first.
Okay.
Yes.
Take it away.
So, human development. Do we mark
Human-
ourselves off our achievements? Well, okay, the human race, as it develops, it kind of mimics a human, and that makes absolute sense, I think, because
it's reasonable.
what other possible race could we possibly mark ourselves off? The only thing that we understand is a human's development, so our race emulates that.
How would you say it's like a human development? For example, what would you say were the early years, the teenage years, the
Well,
rebellious phase?
I think that we
different
are
for every
currently
person.
entering into our rebellious phase. Because at the moment we are starting to leave home, if you know what I mean. We are starting to go into an environment which is absolutely and completely alien to us, the rest of the universe. And of course now that our understanding includes that time does not exist and that it's simply rate of change relative to another rate of change, we're starting to enter into a situation where we're going into the larger universe. So we're growing up from our childhood years where we're simply doing what our parents told us to do.
Or perhaps we've gone through our rebellious years and we're
And
finding
what
an
were they?
equilibrium and moving out of home.
I consider to be moving out of home and rebellious to be the same kind of thing.
Really? Because most rebellious stages, don't they usually happen during high school? You're not essentially moving
the
out during high
teenage
school.
years, I think theoretically, the teenage years go from typical teenagers from 13 to 18. However, I know for a fact that the brain actually doesn't finish developing until 25.
Yeah.
So, theoretically, you're still kind of in your rebellious phase all the way through 18 to 25. So I say moving out of home can be part of the rebellious phase, especially because it's that first time of independence.
Oh, I'm not saying that we're out of our rebellious phase. I'm just saying maybe we're coming near the end of it, because if you look back in history, we've had lots of wars and lots of conflict, and everything's going,
In the same way that a human mind is trying to organize itself
yes,
to the world around
but
it,
now
the same way that
we're starting to
our
find
race
a
was
kind
trying to
of
figure it out.
equilibrium. I mean, still, I reckon that we've still got a lot of conflict to go through
Yeah.
before we find our final flat phase.
Well,
Want of a better
flat, I'm
Before
not
we-
sure.
No, but you
when we
understand what I mean.
understand
A more
ourselves, yeah.
Before we finally
balanced.
Yeah,
When we
before
understand,
more balanced.
understand that we are a race,
Yeah, a more
unified.
not unified. What's the
No,
word?
exactly.
I suppose the best word I can think of
Mature?
is understanding.
Yeah, mature
Um,
understanding.
I can't remember the word.
Kind of
It
like when
starts
you
with a C.
find your identity.
Yeah,
Same way the human race has to kind of go through that.
it's not considerate. It's what's the word? This is driving me nuts. Okay, just go on. I'll think of it later and I'll yell it out.
I do think humanity will have to go through a major development the first time it actually has to start taking care of another planet. Because, we've been on Earth for a long time, and to be fair, we haven't done that good a job.
No. We
But-
need to move
and-
out of home.
And I'm not trying to blame anybody, because I think, part of, the metaphorical growing up is learning what you're doing wrong, and, you
This
have to
stove
make
is
mistakes.
hot.
Though, I think that by the time we
Don't
get...
sacrifice virgins to volcanoes.
Yes, because
Yeah,
apparently
well,
that
that's the
doesn't
hard way.
work. But
never
I think the next time we go to a planet, because they discovered that planet not Alpha Centauri. Oh, that's not a planet. That's a sun, guys. Sorry.
No, but there are planets that humans can move to and inhabit.
There was a specific one they discovered, which was the closest one they found that was almost identical to Earth. And I think when we start actually taking care of other planets, and we kind of get the big chance to go over and do it again, I think that point in time will have to be a real development for the human race.
Well, the first stage is getting there.
Well, yeah, the first stage is getting there.
Getting there, then taking care of it.
Yes.
And not screwing it up like we've kind of done with this one.
Both philosophically and physically, which is another big part of it.
Wait,
The
getting there or
philosophical-
not screwing it up?
I think that I am there. I think that I am there, and I'm there. No, I'm not. Damn it.
Still in the spaceship. Man.
Can you imagine being on a spaceship and going into cryosleep and then somebody wakes you up every 5 minutes? Damn it!
Stop that. It's like
Luke,
Red
stop
Dwarf.
playing with the controls.
It's like Red
Nope.
Dwarf.
Oh yeah, how they slept for
No,
thousands.
he
of
slept
years.
for-
He slept for thousands of years. Was it
Billions.
I don't know. Yeah, and
It was billions.
billions?
It
yeah,
was
it seems like no time at all passed. It is stuck in the middle of space. Anyway,
it wasn't technically cryostasis. It was actually
time dilation field.
time nullification field, like just nothing.
yeah.
So time didn't pass in that field.
Well, it's kind of dilation.
In a book called it was one of the Dreaming Void trilogy. People have these small, little robots that go inside you, and you can reprogram them. But they're much more complicated than that. They're almost like little tiny quantum computers. And they're
Okay.
capable of doing just about anything, depending how you build them and what you can do with them. And so what this one guy does, who may or may not be human anymore, when the bad guys come to kidnap a person that's staying with him, he creates little bubbles around them and accelerates time just inside those bubbles, so that they turn to dust.
He kills people.
Well, yeah, but You don't really have much choice if they're trying to kill you.
Oh, right. Sorry, I thought the people that were staying with him, he'd do that to them.
Oh, no!
I thought, that sounds a little harsh way to
No,
get
no,
rid
no,
of
the
problem.
bad guys that are coming to get
Right, okay. I thought he'd accelerate the people who were staying with him to dust so they couldn't take them away.
You'll never take my guests from me.
You'll never take them alive.
I've always thought the power of time manipulation was one of the most interesting kind of powers or ideas to play with. I'm saying I saw a movie fairly recently called Looper, which was
I've heard of it, haven't seen it though.
it's really quite a good movie. I won't try and spoil any of it. Though one of the main aspects of it is time travel, and they actually do it really quite well. And it works to the thematic devices, and it also it punctuates the story that's trying to be told. The way they incorporate time travel and the way they depict time travel. And, one of the interesting things is, as they explained in the intro, time travel is developed 30 years into the future from the point of the film, and immediately becomes outlawed
Fair enough.
because it's that dangerous to mess with time.
Absolutely.
Again, it depends on your idea of how time travel works.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
If you're jumping into other universes,
then it's not so bad.
No, but then you lose everything. Instantly.
Or nothing. Well, anyway, this will be partly covered by what I'm going to say.
Everyone's got something. I mean, if you have a favorite t-shirt. No, my favorite t-shirt.
I'm wearing my
Visit
favorite
yourself.
t-shirt.
Pi equals 3-ish.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm wearing my favorite shirt. It's a beach shirt.
It's quite a nice shirt.
It's so loose.
What's a shirt?
For
For the
kids at
record,
home,
I am wearing a shirt.
For the record, Chris
Aw.
is lying and he's sitting here with no pants and no shirt, just enjoying himself.
Don't say that.
That sounds quite weird.
It does sound quite weird. No, we are all fully clothed.
I think I might just
I
edit
think.
that out. That's just horrid.
Anyway, back to the topic at hand.
So yeah, human development. Should we be marked? We were completely sidetracked.
Don't worry, it happened last week.
Should we be marked off our achievement? So how much mastery we have over the universe, or how big of a accelerator we built, or the culture with which we
Compensating for some.
enjoyed our existence in this universe. What do you think? I think culture, because really, what's left behind is left behind.
I think it's a bit of both, because culture is definitely a very important part of humanity. As you can see, throughout the years we've developed, going through our different stages, as it were. We've developed from simple communication with people just around us to these days communication with everyone all around the world. Yeah, I also think
For example, this podcast. I mean,
yeah, for this example, this podcast, you could be listening to it in a completely different country.
that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, as we said before, theoretically there'll probably be a listener who's from America. There may be a listener who's from Africa. There may be a listener who's from Asia.
I like Africa.
Yeah, but
Just random
Just
point.
putting that
I
out
do
there.
like Africa. It's a very nice place.
yeah. So it's our culture has developed to a point where we can become communicative with all the people around us, and we can share new, strange, and amazing ideas. Though I think also our achievements play a part of it as well. How we've actually managed to master the earth around us. And because in the early days, human life expectancy wasn't very good.
Yeah, now look at it, we're pretty much
Yeah,
more than
we
doubled our life expectancy from when we started.
Almost triple.
But back in those days, you would have been lucky to get to. You would be very lucky
40.
to get to 70. You'd probably be
40.
lucky to get to 50.
Not in
30,
Asia.
30.
Asia, 30, 40.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and the infant mortality rate was through the roof. I'm saying, these days it's very much fashionable to have only a few children. Back then, you had plenty of children because
Most of them didn't live.
Most of them would not survive.
Through diseases and predators and such.
What was it in England in
Black Plague.
the 11th century? I think it was 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Would die
Dead.
or would live? Die. Oh.
Yeah, so imagine that. I think there's I remember reading statistics about how many would die from each age group. And there was these statistics for I think about 5 to 11, where
Was
about
massive.
half of the people you would know would be dead, could you imagine that growing up with some of the people around you, and knowing that either half of us will be dead by the time we get to 11 years old.
That would solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, I was just thinking, in high school, that wouldn't have been such a bad thing.
So I don't like you, I don't like you, and I don't like you.
Goodbye!
Where's the nearest rat?
Rat fight!
Oh, dear.
You got the plague, you got the
Fight!
I love how we discuss the Black Plague and it immediately becomes to like, what, we should give the Black Plague to bullies.
Oh, come now. That was our last podcast episode. I think that our viewers are bored of that.
Yes.
Yeah, we gotta keep this fresh and new.
I believe that humanity
crunchy.
should be judged partly on its culture, the amount we've managed to develop our culture, and also the amount we've managed to develop our achievements, our understanding of the universe.
Which one do you think is predominantly more important, say, for if another sentient species develops post-human race? As in the mysterious way we mysteriously disappeared and left behind the relics.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about Mass Effect
so in
now.
other words,
Yeah, pretty much. So,
if I had a hard drive and I was either able to download all of humanity's achievements, scientific, medical, all that sort of achievements, or all of humanity's culture, one or the other, that's actually quite.
I would choose
interesting.
achievements because we have our own culture. If we are the successors of the human race, I would take the achievements because we have our own culture. And as interesting as culture is, it's unnecessary for us.
I wouldn't give them either. Now, the reason for that is if you give an infantile, intellectual race technology
No, not
that's...
talking about giving some...
No,
giving it to
if
them.
they can decipher and decrypt it all, they could very easily be given technology that is far beyond their means.
Yes, in that case, I
and
would give them
then
culture.
just destroy themselves.
Yep.
So it's better to either to release it slowly to them, or instead of one just big hulking mass. And culture, as you said, okay, it might be interesting if we leave some of the culture behind, but let them develop their own and then study this ancient culture that's now long been lost. I
From
think
culture you can learn.
yeah, but they might have their own culture already well stabilized before they can get to what we've left behind. So I would probably say neither if we're to leave behind something. Mind you, we probably won't have much of a choice when it comes to that.
Yeah, true.
End up like the Forerunners and be obliterated by the flood.
Yay! Well, that was fun.
If I had a choice, I would like to leave behind advancements because just thinking it from my personal perspective, I wouldn't mind learning of advancements from a far more advanced civilization. I'm saying to me that would be really interesting.
Well, that's why we go to uni.
Yeah, yeah. But that said, each advancement should be punctuated with an advancement in culture. An increasing culture. So I reckon if it was a choice, if I had to choose between one of the two, I would choose culture because that way they would actually learn about the ways to think about things before they get to them. But if that isn't the case, if I had a choice, as Chris said, to just not leave anything, I would probably I'd probably try and leave maybe a bit of both, or just leave nothing at all.
If anything, I'd rather leave the culture behind because that's going to cause less destruction on their people, or at least you would hope.
Yeah. Well, you've seen our current inability to come to terms with our own cultures.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if you look and see if you look at the culture over time, you see that we're slowly becoming more tolerant and accepting of different people, and accepting the differences between people. And if another species comes into that, they might see, okay, I see where they're going with this, and it might help or might not. See, but then again, it all depends on them.
Yeah. See, I would the way I'm thinking about it, is like having all of culture. So, from our early development, from the caveman ideas to the Middle Ages and onwards up to where we were when we were, say, theoretically obliterated. So, in that way, they hopefully wouldn't get the short end of the stick and say, oh, these guys used to be savages and just used to whack each other with clubs. No, they would say, oh, these guys developed from here, and this is what
And
they thought of
made
this,
nuclear
and this is what
weapons.
they thought of this, and this is what they thought of this, and so on and so forth.
On the mark of intolerance, however, even though you become more accepting and more tolerant of different cultures, I think that if something does compromise a core value or a core principle, then you should be utterly and absolutely intolerant of that particular thing.
But what defines these core principles?
Well, at the moment, logic.
That's
Because we are now at the point in our development where we can justify everything that we do. I can justify every view I have. And if I can't, and somebody else points that out, I try to justify it. And a lot of the time, as I do so, I have to completely change the way that I think about things, which is fine. So, the fact that we can do that, the fact that we can go through and logically, quantitatively say this is why we are like this. If something, however, in a lot of cases there are situations which are just down to preference.
And emotion.
No, that comes under quantitative analysis. You can easily do that to emotion.
Yes. Sorry,
Yes.
I must
So-
have zoned out. Sorry.
Well, it becomes more like what little eccentricities does each human being have? You know, you might have a very specific idea of what color shirt you would like to wear on a certain day.
True.
Like for me, if I feel like Coke, I can only drink Coke out of a plastic cup that has a different color to the last time that I drank Coke out of a plastic cup. Why? Because I can. That's why.
I do reckon. See, I do like the society we have these days because I, to be perfectly frank, have my own beliefs, and not everyone agrees with my beliefs. And to be fair, I'll try to keep my personal beliefs off the podcast. Though I do also like the fact that in society we are constantly challenged to think about what we believe,
Yes.
and to think about what we hold to our intellectual honesty, and what we hold to ourselves. So these days, I love the internet because I love going on the internet. I love going to the internet and seeing what people think about issues, especially if I don't agree with them. Because there's nothing I like more than knowing both sides of the argument.
Also, having your own views challenged is good too.
Yeah.
I mean, if it can get you to take a new stance on things that you may not have seen before.
Or, there are points where having your own views challenged, like, your own views on controversial topics where, you think, oh, hey, I haven't seen that before. Maybe I should reevaluate my view. Or having your view challenged, you go back and look at it and think, no, this is why I believe this, and this is what I hold this. So you can reaffirm, you can rethink. And, I think challenging each other's views is very important.
Absolutely. If you don't, there can be no development.
But I also think that we shouldn't lead to a society where, you have to force your views on other people.
No, absolutely not. No,
Because-
you should never have to force your views onto somebody else.
Yeah.
If you have a view that cannot be disproved quantitatively and yet is different from somebody else's that cannot be disproved quantitatively because they both hold true under certain circumstances or they're both irrelevant to reality, then you should never force it
Force
on
your
somebody
views.
else because really, why?
Well, all you really should do is you should show them why you feel that way.
Yeah.
And
And if you can't
at least
explain
get them
it-
to understand. And at least that way they can make up their mind about it.
Yes.
Yeah, and see, that's another thing, like, as I said before, I like going on and listening to both sides of the argument. I don't like it when I go onto a, say, internet forum, have a look around, and it's, someone discussing, oh, this is what I think about, let me just think.
Asylum seekers.
Yeah, this is what I think about asylum seekers. And then someone else comes along and says, no, you're wrong, this is why, you should believe this. I think the proper way to do it is to lay out the facts, say, this is what I
Exactly,
believe,
yes. I agree with this.
and this is obviously in opposition to what you believe.
I still have to talk.
But, we can still have our differences. Okay, if you're wondering why it's gone eerily quiet, it's because the two Chris's have gone off into the corner to discuss something maniacally. I Not quite sure what. This is really strange. What are you guys plotting?
The point of us running away, so it wouldn't be heard on the podcast, so you could
So it
keep
would be
talking.
uninterrupted,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
could do this.
I sort of finished my spiel there.
Well, Chris wants to bring something up.
Oh, but sorry.
Okay,
Not-
fine.
Not quite finished my spiel.
Not finished now.
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah,
okay.
you had your chance.
Sorry.
Hurry up.
You should not think that. You.
But and when people listen to that kind of viewpoint, they're thinking, oh, so everyone has to be nanny-panny, politically correct. No, you can
No,
be,
politically correct is bad.
yeah,
And
you-
before we go to Chris, I want to make a point.
and no, you can
What,
state
you're
your
gonna
views
throw an
as strongly as you like. But what I find somewhat repulsive is when you really try and force it on the other person. You really don't give them a chance to explain what they believe and why they believe it. And you try and force them to change their beliefs rather than letting them evaluate it themselves.
You shut them down, essentially.
Yeah, you
And
shut them
that's-
down and you say, no, you're wrong, you're only right if you believe what I believe. I believe the correct response is like, no, I don't think you're right, but feel free to offer me any evidence.
I find this slightly ironic because we're telling people this is how you should do things.
No,
not
this
this
is
way.
how we think we should do it, and we are providing justification.
I know,
for
but
that.
it's still slightly ironic.
All right, so political correctness. There is a big difference between being tactful and being just saying an incorrect statement. A lot of the time, a politically correct statement is designed to cause absolutely no offense to anybody,
And therefore it loses meaning.
which means that a lot of the time you cannot get your opinion across. If I have to make a very, very specific judgment where I have to say that something is wrong, then you can do so politically correctly, but you cannot
You lose what you're
emphasize
trying to say,
what
kind of.
you're trying to say. So you don't have to be rude about what you're saying. You don't have to be a horrible person and shut people down. However, if you speak plainly and absolutely correctly and the other person is offended, then you can say, I do not mean offense by this. If they then, if they take offense, that is their right, and then you can be considerate of them. However, I think that people need to have more faith in each other. The fact that people
Not
are
everything
always
is meant
going...
to offend.
Well, yes, exactly. And the fact that using a political correctness is assuming that the other person is so childish, so immature, that they can't handle it. Whereas, especially from the culture I was brought up in, if you are so weak and immature not to be able to handle what somebody says directly to you, to your face, you did this terribly and this is why, then you just need to toughen up and get over it. And I think that this should be the same case in more professional situations as well. Especially when somebody comes up to me and they hand me a report and they say, well, what do you think could be done to maybe make this a bit better? Or how else do you think you could word this?
Are you sure you want my opinion?
It's like, sorry, what are you talking about? Because I don't care. I wrote this and I'm done with it. However, somebody else comes up to me, my good American friend comes up and he goes, this sucks. You've done this very badly and this is why.
Yeah.
I
It's
appreciate
constructive
that.
criticism.
Also, that being correct and being deliberate and exact is good, I think. Go on. With what you were going to say.
No, I'm fine. No, don't worry. No, I'm done.
Yeah. I
What I thought was already said, so by others.
pretty much I agree with that. I reckon a good place to draw the line is when you're being rude without offering anything. So, if you do come up to say to someone, okay, say this piece of writing kind of sucks and this is why, that's fairly fine. So long as they understand where you're coming from, that's fine. If you come up to someone and say, this piece of writing just plain sucks,
And then walk
and
away.
you don't offer any real reason to
No,
it.
that's also
just
bad.
Yeah, that's
That's very
kind
bad.
of
No, you need to, again, back it up with facts.
Pretty much.
So that's always helpful. Facts. So do you have anything else you want to say on the topic?
Nothing more to say.
Apart from
That's
I know that tone.
I was going to talk about the Black Ops, but maybe not. No.
We'll see if we can come back to it.
Maybe we'll come back to it. But before we go, I will quickly mention Lord of the Rings Online has let me down. The biggest thing that I noticed is that as a lore master, as a mage, basically, I engage my enemy. All of a sudden, the aggro's on me instead of my summoned minion. So a melee enemy comes up to me and hits me once. So I walk away. No matter how far I go, the melee enemy's melee attacks can still hit me. And I still take melee attack damage no matter how far away I go.
It's a really, really long sword.
Or claws in some case. Rawr! Or neck, I guess. So
Are you finding giraffes?
that's really annoying.
Hybrids of giraffes and lions.
Giraffe wolves.
In case you're wondering, Google giraffes fighting. It is some of the weirdest combat you have ever seen.
Giraffes can kick a head off a lion.
I know, but have you seen how giraffes fight each other?
Fact.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's a defensive thing. Their legs are so strong they can kick a head off, decapitate a lion by kicking
That's
their
a
head.
lot of stuff to go through. That's a lot of muscle
That's
and
a-
spine.
yeah, Well, firstly, I highly doubt a lion's just gonna stand there and wait to be kicked.
We should experiment
I don't think we should.
lion
That would-
analogs. Just saying. As in pigs, dead ones. Anyway, so
In case you're wondering, analog means dead pig.
yeah. By the way,
I thought it was something to do with watches.
and the fact that the lore master has no spells. Now, a lot of you are going to go, "What? They have spells? Of course they have spells. They're the mage. They have no combat spells. They've got one DOT. They have a fire spell which has a cooldown period that is
6 minutes?
massive. No, it's 5 seconds.
Okay, yeah, that's still pretty good.
It's
Bad defeating
ridiculous.
battle,
You're a mage. You should be non-stop casting spells. There's not a point where you
No,
go.
it should
you
be a
cast
mana
spell,
bar and just.
and then you stop. And I have to just stop.
It's not turn-based.
It's ridiculous. This is a real-time thing, and I do not have enough spells to constantly be casting spells.
Cast, run away, cast, run away.
But if I run away, I still take damage from a melee hit. So yeah.
You need to learn how to like fly or something. Still taking damage when you're 5 miles away.
Just going home, going to sleep, and all of a sudden, melee enemy. Oh, what the heck? What the heck?
Oh, and I just got introduced to casting. I'm not casting. The hobbies, the crafting thing. The crafting system is good, and I like it.
Okay, well that's
Other
a
than
redeeming
that,
feature.
that's all I've got to say about that.
Okay, well, going back to the themes of games we talked about last week, Dishonored. I have had more of a chance to play it
No spoilers.
beyond the 20 minutes. So,
So you played it
I-
once.
yeah, no.
Or once more since last
Yes, once more. I've actually spent a bit too much time on it, to be perfectly frank.
time. Your studies.
I know I should be studying, but such is life. Anyway, when playing Dishonored, I have looked at some other online criticisms, and there are some points I do like to agree with. It is still by far one of the funnest games I've played this year. I haven't gotten many games this year, but I still reckon that Dishonored is one of the top among games this year.
Alas, poor Shu Yorick. I knew him well.
I'm sorry, Chris is just distracting me by performing Shakespeare to his shoe.
Which one?
Hamlet.
Left or right?
They don't know that.
No, shoot.
Anyway, so Dishonored, the combat is still fun as ever, especially once you start to get your little magical powers, as it were, because they certainly add a variety and a certain depth to the combat that you don't usually see. Because in most games, you have your spell that does, it does damage, and that's
Fireball.
pretty much it. Fireball, such and such. And you may have a few spells that work in conjunction. In Dishonored, pretty much every power that you get can be used in conjunction with other powers in really interesting ways.
I've heard what you can do in Dishonored is jump from a rooftop to down onto a guard and kind of possess the guard's body so you don't get fall damage.
Yeah, you can do a
That-
lot of things.
That
For-
sounds like a really cool thing.
For example, two abilities you get.
Developers.
Two abilities you get in the game. One is stop time, and one is possess. And before you say it's OP, they both take up a lot of mana, and they both take a lot of time to get. So it's not that OP. For example, say a guard is about to shoot you. You can stop time as he's shooting you. You can then possess the guard. You can then walk the guard in front of his own bullet,
Yeah, I've heard of
and
this
then
too. That's-
unpossess him, and watch him get shot by his own bullet. Another nifty thing I found is you get these little traps called wire traps or something. I can't quite remember. Razor blade traps. Anyway, you can put them on all sorts of surfaces. And one thing I found when I was playing around with the game is you can also put them on rats. Now you can possess rats. So say there's a couple of guards ahead, and you kind of want to take them down. You could
rats,
you could put one of those little traps on a rat, possess the rat, and run it straight into the group of guards.
Oh, it's only a rat.
Yeah. And there are other abilities like Blink, which allows you to teleport. So for example, if you're going past a particularly tricky section, you can slow down / stop time and literally teleport super quickly, as it were, past that segment or behind the guards. I'm saying there have been quite a few times I've taken out about 2 or 3 guards completely unawares whilst time is being slowed. So all the abilities you get do feel useful, and they are very fun to experiment and play with.
About how many are there?
There are 6 in total. Blink, which is the teleport. Dark Eyes, which allows you to see through walls.
That would be helpful.
Possession, which allows you to possess animals and then later on humans. Slow / stop time. First level you get is slowing time. Second level you get is stopping time. Each ability has 2 levels, by the way.
Right.
Then there's the Devouring Swarm, which is summoning a bunch of rats to basically eat the guards, and it can also eat away the corpses, so there's no evidence left.
Ooh.
And Wind Blast, which is basically like the Fus Rodal of the game.
I'm a friend to the rats.
Yes.
And dragons.
And the classic.
Enemy of the dragons.
And the classic stealth game paradigm, where the guard says, "Oh, it's only a rat." In this case, it can literally be only a rat.
Except with a bomb strapped to it.
Pretty much.
It's the rats, I tell you.
So yeah, all the items and abilities you get, they all feel comfortable. They all feel very useful, and there are situations where you can use each and every one of them. And depending on your playstyle, you can literally use almost any sort of option. For example, one time I had to get into a party, and I was just like, I'm not quite sure how to do this. I could probably just, teleport over the wall or something. And then I also found that I could possess a fish and swim it through a crack in the gates underneath to get to the party via the sewers.
Wow.
Bit of a spoiler there. I should have said that beforehand. But, it's those kind of ideas that make Dishonored a really, truly great game. And once again, my first playthrough, I'm trying to be doing it non-lethal. So, I'm trying to be taking out people non-lethally.
With the rats.
With rats, yes.
With rats and explosives. That's non-lethal, isn't it?
Okay, close enough. And,
Just mortally wound.
it is really interesting and really fun, the different
Actually, I
ways you
didn't
can
kill
take out people without killing them.
blow
And,
them
I'll admit it now that I definitely have not finished the game. And whilst I thought I may be close to the end of the game, I may be a bit further away than I actually think, so I'm not 100% sure. But that said, I still reckon Dishonored is worth checking out. If you don't quite have the money for it now, wait for a bit of time and then get it. Though yeah, Dishonored is kind of like Bioshock
As we
in the
do.
fact that it's one of those games you should definitely try.
Oh, I'm looking forward to playing it.
Yeah.
I know I said that last week, but I'm looking forward to playing it. There's so much Dishonored stuff online.
Yes,
I
they
mean,
really have
like
marketed
mods?
it.
No, just lots of reviews and gameplay and walkthroughs and all of that really quickly.
I
Are
think
there mods?
I don't know.
there are no
I
mods
don't
for
know.
Dishonored yet, as far as I know.
I think it would take a little more time to develop a mod.
I-
I mean, you've got to go through the codes and
Day
stuff like
one
that.
on Skyrim.
But that's because Skyrim is a bit more of a kind of game that
Lets you do it. They
yeah,
give you the ability.
it's a bit
to
more
do it.
about modding.
Yeah.
I think Dishonored's leaning much more towards the DLC approach.
Mm,
And
yeah.
part of me is kind of like, yeah, I could see how that would be good because more abilities, more powers, more more stuff to do.
Right.
But another part of me is kind of like, couldn't you have released that with the main game? Because the main game at the moment is kind of short. I'm saying, I guess that is one of the major criticisms that is being leveled against it, and I kind of agree with. The main game is, even though I'm probably not as close to the end as I think I am. It's still a fairly short game. I haven't done as much as I thought I would before I'm getting up to the point I am. So I'm just kind of like,
Well, you'll have to play through the game and find out.
I do have to play through to the end before I can justify my claims, really. Though I do think Dishonored, because I do like the way they've handled all the powers and all the weapons. I think it would have been cool if they allowed us to do more, like they gave us more weapons and more powers. I reckon that would have been awesome to try more combinations with those powers and weapons, and just because it's amazing, as I've just discussed, it's amazing. And more missions, more stuff to do, really. Okay, so I guess I should probably move on to my topic. The interactions between comic book heroes and villains. Now, before we started this podcast, the three of us were sitting around the phone and listening to a song between
I thought you were going to talk
Batman,
about the other thing.
a song by Miracle of Sound, which is on The Escapist, if you're wondering,
The villains.
between the Joker and Batman. And, which got me thinking, what is it about comic book villains and heroes that makes them so compelling? What is it that, really makes them so interesting? Because, the Joker is one of the most well-known villains of all in comic books. And he's a complete maniac, so what makes him so compelling?
Because he embodies something so completely honest, actually. Absolute anarchy, destruction, and something very free. He is completely what he is.
True. Complete
freedom of mind. Just he's doing exactly what he wants to do and doesn't care. No strings
The
attached.
consequences don't matter to him. I've forgotten. You took on a separate path and I forgot what I was going to say.
You stand up there in the great debate. However, on the idea of banning nuclear weapons, I've completely forgotten what I wanted to say.
I've forgotten my stance.
I
please
forgot to write it
continue.
down because, I was a bit rushed this morning.
I was Russian this morning.
Libya, go on.
I think nuclear weapons aren't good. Oh wait, Chris is
I
making his
remembered.
point.
Also, it's kind of the chicken and the egg thing. Who comes first? Does the villain come first or does the hero come
The
first?
villain. In most cases.
Actually, I've read a few interesting articles because one of the things about Joker is during many of the origin stories, the Joker comes after the Batman. The Batman exists before the Joker.
But the Batman exists because of another villain.
Yes, but the thing is, the Joker, as many people have done serious academic articles on this, and
As they should.
Hey,
Well,
it's literature.
No,
it
that's
is actually a really
as they
interesting
should.
topic. And I'm not 100% qualified to talk of this, but whatever. This is a podcast. I can do what I want. Yeah.
Yeah, but I can edit it, remember? I can take your voice
He
from
can edit
you.
what he wants. Yeah.
I think I might get rid of the years. What?
Uh-huh.
You're watching me, okay.
But the
With
thing is,
Editing too much.
the thing is, I've read through
This
I've read a
isn't
bit about the Joker's origin, and apparently Batman accidentally causes the Joker to be created when he's stopping another criminal. And as a result, the Joker is almost hell-bent on destroying Batman. And in the Dark Knight, not Dark Knight Rises, the one before it. Just the Dark Knight, wasn't it?
Yeah, or Batman Begins.
No, not Batman Begins, the Dark Knight.
That's when
the one with
Joker comes
Joker.
in.
Yeah. Heath Ledger does say that almost iconic line in my view. I believe we're destined to do this forever. the Batman and Joker kind of need each other.
Yeah.
They fight each other. They're constantly battling each other. Yet Batman can't kill the Joker because
it's against his morals.
It's against his morals.
And the Joker won't kill him because it's just too
much
much fun.
And there's also the question is that Batman's pretty much almost killing people by not getting rid of the Joker. Because every time the Joker escapes, every time, he goes on one of these mini little rampages, he almost inevitably ends up either seriously hurting or killing people close to the Batman. Or just people in general. So it's kind of one of those things. Is the Batman
Would you?
doing more harm than good?
Yes, but it's me, not Batman.
I'm Batman.
Is Batman doing more harm than good by not killing the Joker? And should he kill the Joker?
Logically, yes. And, I mean, yep, good, your morals are great and wonderful and whatnot, but if you're going to be fighting the Joker, you have to be a soldier. Where we're talking about survival of the city and the survival of people. The Joker is a direct enemy. This is not even some wishy-washy grey area where it's some guy who's authorizing development on top of a square area. No, this is the Joker, and he kills people.
Yeah.
This is very direct.
It would be life imprisonment, easily. Several
Easily.
hundred.
And of course they can't
consecutive
keep him there,
sentences.
so I would say Batman, be a soldier. Just for one night.
But that goes
soldier.
against the essence of who Batman is.
Yes,
So
but it's not a case of morality.
No,
Now it's
but
a case of
I'm
there
saying
isn't
there
very
needs to
bad
be
man.
another superhero who will go and kill the Joker.
Because Batman doesn't understand.
Well,
I
pretty
think-
much every superhero, they don't kill.
Well,
Well, they
actually,
try not to because they're...
Yeah, it's against what they... Or they won't kill the bad guy, they'll...
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I say send them to prison, absolutely. But the Joker keeps coming out of prison.
But here's another thought that I find quite interesting. Would Batman, as soon as if he theoretically killed the Joker, would that be the beginning of his decline? The beginning of the loss of his moral code. Would that eventually turn him into the next Joker?
I don't think so. You know why?
Why?
Because there are soldiers that come home and they live fine.
There are also a lot of soldiers that come home and are completely messed up.
Yeah.
Plus, he's a guy dressed up as a bat. I don't think
Yeah,
his
okay,
mental
sure.
stability is that great.
His mental state is questionable.
Yeah, so...
Dude, you dress up as a bat.
Come on!
Actually, one of the funniest things I've seen on the internet is
The internet.
the internet, a wonderful, amazing place.
I'm gonna go on the internet.
One of the comics called XKCD did this little strip about Batman, and it's like, what I like to do is replace the word Batman with man dressed as a bat. and they took scenes from The Dark Knight Rises. It's simple. We kill the man dressed as a bat, which honestly makes him sound like an escaped lunatic.
The only thing that really makes it acceptable is that he's done heaps of combat training,
Yeah.
and he has the equipment. So that's really about it. I mean, if you took away that from him,
Yeah.
what is he?
A
He's
vigilante.
a man. Sorry?
A vigilante.
No, but if he doesn't have anything really going for him apart from a hockey mask with some ears strapped on.
Yeah. I think Batman, one of Batman's
His
super
sanity-
secret non-actually mentioned powers is the fact of super convenience. He's
yeah.
always got the solution to the problem. But here's another question I would like to pose to you. If superheroes did exist in the real world, do you think they should be allowed to be vigilantes?
Well, there are kind of vigilantes that do exist, dressed
But they're
up.
not superheroes.
That's
they
why I
don't
said
have superpowers.
vigilantes.
Well,
And
Well, is
to be
Batman
fair, what
is
would-
Batman a superhero or vigilante? Because he hasn't got superpowers.
did you just say Superman doesn't have
No,
superpowers?
No.
I
Batman.
think I said Batman.
Batman doesn't have super.
Batman doesn't have superpowers. Well, no. Well, he is a vigilante by definition.
Right.
He's not part of the police force
No. Well,
enacting justice.
we're assuming-
I'm assuming the word vigilante here means that someone who is outside the authorized
police force.
the authorized governmental state.
Law
So
enforcement.
not at all endorsed by the law enforcement, going out and taking it upon themselves in any way, shape, or form, violent or
To-
non-violent, to stop criminal activity.
Yeah, that is a vigilante. That's the definition.
Yeah.
Of vigilante.
And
if superheroes were in real life,
Like actual
superheroes,
Right.
Would they do that? I don't know. Would they do that? I would not personally go into the police force because there are better uses for superpowers. Say, if I was Superman, there were better places for my powers, say, in the physics department
That's fair.
to do things rather than be in the police force. However, if they were part of the police force and they were an asset of the police force, yeah, sure, why not? I've got no problem with that. But to have a guy dressed as a bat on his own,
A man dressed as a bat.
not being regulated, the start of his decline could happen. That's a serious thing. So yes, while the idea of, I want to go and save the world is very good, having no backup, no assurances, the fact that no one can really trust them, they kind of have to take their word they are a good guy, that's a bit much.
and another point I'd like to bring up is not to demean the police force at all. I love the police, and
I've actually seen them out and about a bit more around.
Yeah.
Well, the police work for us.
No, but up until recently, they didn't have much of a presence around.
yeah,
Or just,
yeah.
or just
We don't
anywhere
have any police in here.
that we know.
Another thing, though, is not all police follow the rules, and not all police exact proper justice. So, do you think that any people with superpowers would be more likely to, as it were, snap? And again, let me clarify my statement. I do respect the police officers a lot. I'm just
Please
talking
don't
about.
shoot me.
Yeah. No, but I'm just trying not to be
No,
disrespectful.
I know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
and it's that, we are human, and we are prone to these weaknesses or
And even
Vices.
among some of the best
Vices.
institutions, there are always people who are
Absolutely.
out
It's
of it.
very difficult to have a completely pure system. And of course the police force is plagued by this. Of course they are. And that's not good. So, yes, people in the police force, some of them are like that. But you know what? They are regulated by other police officers which aren't like that because the system is so big. And it's not exactly self-regulating because it is vulnerable to these weaknesses and these sort of weak links or pressurized people, whatever is causing them to be like this, personal gain or pressure from the outside, something like that, for example, bribery or threatening. They can really damage the system, yes, but the force is working to rectify itself over time, and because it's so big and it has so many different people in it, it can do that. One man on his own may not be able to identify where he's gone wrong.
I'll just bring it back to superheroes. I'd be more worried about the superhero going rogue. I mean, if they have power that no other man has, they're essentially unstoppable and could very easily become a supervillain.
The Hulk versus the army.
So, yeah, I probably wouldn't want a superhero, but a vigilante. I would be happier with, because they can be contained.
If they don't
Easy.
have superpowers, though.
That's precisely what I'm going on about.
Because a
that's why I'm
superhero
using
can be a vigilante.
No, but I'm saying superhero and vigilantes.
But a superhero who does that, like Superman,
So a vigilante-
is a vigilante.
Sorry. Yeah. No. But
So
okay.
I
Let me
think what
just-
he's
a
saying
superhero
is
as
I'm not
opposed
saying
to a
within-
person.
I think what he's saying is that it would be easier to deal with a vigilante who has no powers as opposed to
Yeah.
a vigilante who does have powers. And
Exactly,
he's just saying
that's
a
what I'm
vigilante who
talking
does
about.
have powers, just calling them a superhero.
As
for
they
now.
do in many countries.
Yes.
So that's where I'm going with that. And what I want to know is where are all the supervillains?
See, can I just say
And-
my own little theory on this? If, per se, we woke up one morning and let's think of a reasonable number, 5% of the population.
5%. That's a big number. I like that.
It's a fairly big number. Actually, let's say 1%. 1%.
Still massive.
But smaller than 5.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's
Anyway,
hypothetical.
continue.
Let's just say a percentage of the population woke up one
Small
day.
percentage.
A small percentage of the population woke up one day and had superpowers.
It'll be absolute chaos.
I recommend.
Oh,
I
it'd be
reckon.
so much fun.
I
If I
reckon-
was the one of the people who had superpowers.
See, there's the
As
thing.
a person who didn't have superpowers, that would be terrifying.
Oh, yeah, you couldn't escape if they had
I
X-ray
would be
vision.
making really loud noises, explosions and such.
I need my mecha suit.
Sorry, go on.
You know,
Iron
I
Man.
reckon.
the
Super,
mecha suit.
I reckon supervillains would almost naturally form
Oh,
Sure.
because amongst anybody who has power,
I think
there
there
are
will
always
be...
those who misabuse it. I'm saying we see this today in other countries where, you know, there are people who are in positions of power. Who, you know, you take one look at it and you're just like, why are you there? Why do you have this power?
I think it would be more like if that did happen and a small percentage of the population did get superpowers, it would more be super thugs than super
Yeah.
villains. Because they would just say, oh, I have all this power, I can do anything I want, I'm just going to rob a bank. I'm going to beat up this person that I don't like.
Even if
And
it's,
it won't go very maniacal
Yeah.
genius kind of thing, which I would prefer to go for.
you know, even if it's not that great to rob a bank, and you know, you can almost never get away with it. Why are you going to rob a bank? Because that's what supervillains do. You rob a bank.
Well, they do need funding, especially me.
Yeah, but a bank? A
And
bank?
like the government's going to fund my death rate.
The stuff that
Yeah.
you take from the bank,
It can be reimbursed.
it can be
it's insured.
No, it can be traced.
I want checks.
But even they can be traced. You can almost not get away with anything when it comes to a bank.
Nah,
I think that's the whole point.
just
of a
steal gold
bank.
bars and sell them to other villains, and then.
Even gold bars are now
No, no,
being
no, but
traced
what you
with
do-
radioactive tags.
No, but you
It is
take the
almost-
gold bars,
And
then
melt
you
them.
sell them to other lesser wise people,
And-
and then you keep the cash. You sell the gold bars cheap, but you get them off your hands.
Yeah, but they might
You offload them.
check the gold bars. Or are you talking just
No,
go
you,
to some port
okay.
somewhere and hand them
I
over
think
to
he's
somebody?
just saying you get the gold bars, you find a suitable fence, and you get rid of them.
Yeah,
I'd melt them down
For-
into jewellery.
that
Fair
could work, but that's an entire other process you then got to go through.
I'd rather do that than try to offload gold bars.
No, you're not offloading
It's
like
kinda sus.
tons of gold bars. You just say like one here or there, but you have lots of people.
But still, it's a
either way, it's
bar.
going to be.
And if you're offloading one here or there, all of a sudden you're creating a trace pattern that people can find
No,
you.
but you do a web. You do a trace web, and all the lines cross.
And where's the center?
There is none
Ooh.
because you give them to someone who doesn't know.
Oh, okay.
Trust me, there's so many ways this can go. Anyway, away from our villainous activities.
Bringing the topic back to a
Reel
bit
it
more
in.
of a light-hearted
Ooh.
conclusion. One last question for you guys. If you had a superpower, just one, so you know, not I'm Superman, I can fly, have super hearing, all that. You know, just one superpower.
Batman.
What would it be?
Barring immortality and eternal youth, that kind of thing.
Yeah, barring immortality and eternal youth.
What about time manipulation?
Yeah, can we have time manipulation?
Guess.
I guess. What are you, the time police?
Well, I would take time manipulation because then I'm immortal. But if I couldn't have time manipulation, or if it was literally just slow time, speed up time, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
No,
Telekinesis. At infinite resolution.
Yeah, telekinesis is probably one of the. Although, here's my kind of theory thing. Telekinesis would be the most useful.
Yes, because
By
you can
far.
pretty much emulate most of the other
Yeah.
superpowers with it.
But frankly, I love stealth and I love invisibility. So I know it's not as useful as telekinesis, but it's one I just kind of have a soft spot for. Though overall, I would go with logic and choose the telekinesis.
I would personally choose shapeshifting because I quite like the idea of being able to.
I really can't be bothered to shapeshift.
What are you going to shapeshift into? Here's a question for you.
Another human or a
Yeah, you
rabbit?
could shape.
Rabbit fight with Luke!
Kick
Oh,
him across the room.
Oh, you could, for example, if you're
No
trying to
Lukes
break,
were hurt in the
if you're
making
trying to
of this
get into
podcast.
someone, you could shapeshift your hand into a key to fit into the lock.
Yeah,
Oh, you're not just talking about, say, I turn into a wolf. You're talking about complete
Yeah.
control. Yeah, but your finger in a lock?
well, again,
Fleshy finger in a lock? Are you talking about shapeshifting as in also turning into rock? Or
changing
key?
changing chemical
Yeah.
properties.
I'm thinking more biological, and the way you could make that work is you could shapeshift your finger into suitably hard bone to move that.
Then telekinesis has got you covered. You can
Yeah,
pretty
but-
much rip the door off its hinges.
In my personal
Don't need
opinion, if I had a choice, I would like to choose shapeshifting
You
because
could
I
shapeshift clothes onto your body. You'd literally be walking around naked all the time. That would be so much fun. It's like, I'm naked under these clothes. I'm actually naked in these clothes. These are me.
Oh dear, moving on.
So my topic now?
Yeah, your
Yes,
topic
go.
now.
Is that why everyone's looking at me funny?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it is.
Right, now we're getting to the boring stuff.
Oh, I
Actually-
love boring stuff.
Okay. It's the first part of this is going to be a little boring because it's going through the theory behind it, and then I get to the fun stuff.
The fonts.
The fun stuff of my stuff. I'm sorry, this is going to be semi like a lecture. Feel free to interject.
I will go for it.
Okay, if you don't understand anything, Luke, feel free to put your hand up and ask.
And I will say when I put my hand up.
And any listeners who have any questions about this, just put them in the comments or anything like that. We'll do in our wrap up, we'll talk about all the how to contact us. Okay, so this is basically multiple universe theory, and its proper name is the many worlds interpretation of quantum theory. So, it just makes you feel smart saying it. It's great. Okay, so what happens is this theory basically allows atoms, electrons, and photons to exist in more than one state at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Now, all these quantum particles have a wave-particle duality, where they can be perceived as a wave or as a particle.
So in other words, every kind of thing has its own wavelength. That's
Kind of, yeah. And that's kind of how it's quantized
Yes.
into quanta, or quantum particles and
There's
quantum.
a lot of quanta going around here.
It's quanta. So yeah, it's basically a quantum state. So a single. It's in discrete packets of energy. I think it was described as. Anyway, so so the theory allows for electrons and photons to exist in more than one state at one time, and this allows for the effects of superposition, which are seen when observing waves. Now, one of the classic experiments for this is if you've got, say,
Did I make it before time dilation?
time dilation.
Well, now everyone's heard
I
that.
haven't got to time dilation.
Oh.
Actually, where are you getting time dilation from?
Time dilation.
I'm not talking
He's
talking
pulled it
about
from
time
thin
dilation
air.
from this.
Electrons traveling at light speed. Photons traveling at light speed.
I'm not talking about photons traveling at
No,
light
sorry,
speed.
never mind. Nothing. Go
Anyway,
on.
Anyway, back to what I was saying. Say you've got a light source, and that light source has to pass through a piece of sheet metal or something with two slits cut in it.
Oh yeah.
And if you put a piece of paper further along and you shine light through it, you'll get kind of a ripple effect looking kind of pattern on this sheet of paper, which will have dark, light, and bright kind of colors of the lights.
Yes.
Now, this is basically the interaction of the waves, and the waves cancelling each other out and building on each other
Yes.
to create the pattern. Now, take into consideration they're also particles.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit mind bending.
The particles also build on each other and take away from each other?
Kind of. So, when accounting for the superposition of waves, so the pattern, we find that their particle equivalents act in kind of weird ways. So, you kind of got to let go of logic a little bit, though logic will come back into it.
I think I let go of logic as soon as I began this podcast.
You've never had logic.
Nope.
So now, another experiment that can be done is instead of firing photons or light waves, you fire electrons, which have which are quantum particles and have the wave-particle duality. And you fire it at the screen with the two narrow slits. But you can calibrate the machine so there's only one electron in the machine at any one time.
Okay.
Okay, now by logic, you would think that the electron travels through only one of the holes, and you just see, if you put a phosphorescent screen at the other end, you just see a dot behind one of the slits.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case.
It turns into a wave and travels through both of the holes.
No, well, give me a sec. It's a wave and a particle at the same time. It doesn't change between them. It's both. Simultaneously. So for those of you who can't see,
I'm
Luke
doing
is
the waving
waving
hands
his
to
arms.
represent both being a wave and a particle.
Okay, so the electron, now if you think of the electron as a particle, the electron travels through both slits as a particle. Now, what happens is, if we're looking at the slits, we would only see it travel through one of the slits, but we would still see the superposition pattern, which is kind of unusual because you wouldn't expect that. So when the electron is faced with the choice of the left slit or the right slit, by this theory, our universe actually splits into two. And in one of the universes, it travels through the left slit. In the other universe, it travels through the right slit. And these quantum particles interact with each other over or between the divide of the two separate universes that now exist.
So in other words, when we're not observing it, it's technically in two universes at once.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
So think of one electron traveling along, and then instead of it splitting into two to go, or splitting in half to go through both slits and then come back together, the universe actually splits, allowing for it to go through both holes.
That's pretty drastic for a single electron.
Yes, but that's a single electron, and that can happen for photons as well. So the universe splits, and these electrons from their other universe counterpart can feel the effects, and that's why we still see the superposition pattern on the screen.
So the theory is not only are there multiple universes, but the fact is that they're interacting with us on everyday levels.
They potentially, yes. So it is mind-bending stuff. It is really
And considering how many times
Really out
these
there.
kind of situations occur where electrons, say, are in two places at the same time, apparently.
Yeah.
Or, just general things in general.
Uncountable times a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this, well, as I'm saying, happens a lot. In fact, infinite number every second, pretty much, because electrons are faced with choices all the time.
Well, they can make up their mind.
Well, they don't really make up their mind. It's more they take every option available to them.
They cheat.
Yeah.
Which conversation choice would you like? All of them.
Yeah, it's like one of the game shows where they've got 3 doors, and they say you have to walk through one of them.
And
So you're standing there. Okay, I'll walk through one of them. What happens is the universe will split. You go through all doors, plus you also run into the space between the doors, run away from the doors, and somehow float upwards at the same time in different universes.
I like
It's
the
just-
floating upwards universe.
No, but pretty much everything just
Your
goes out
lunch
the window.
doesn't.
You, everything goes out the window because everything that can happen has happened or will happen or does happen.
Nice.
Everything happens. There's one where I don't exist. There's one where for some reason, am a superhero. Going back to that, and I have telekinesis. Or I have...
There's another one where you are make flies angry man.
Yes, I make flies angry. That's all I do. So, and this is where it really gets fun. Okay. So, I've been doing a little thought experiment of my own, building on this. And so, if everything that can happen has happened in many of these universes, because they're so there's an infinite number of them, then it's reasonable to assume that in an infinite number of universes, someone has developed a means to travel between them.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
But wait, hang on. But wait, there's more. By the sheer number of universes that this is possible in, it's also reasonable to assume that an infinite number of these travelers have come to our universe. So, where are all these travelers?
As soon as they arrive, they create their own universe?
Pretty much. Because our universe is splitting so much, they end up in one strand of our universe. But there are some that have come through to this universe and are in this one that we're currently in now.
How? And
How have they come to this universe? I don't know, I'm working on that. So I am actually working on a means to travel between universes. It's kind of hard. So far, I've only figured out a way how to transport myself between two universes, but it's pretty much just like cloning yourself. It doesn't quite work. So it's pointless, in other words, the way I've figured it out. So, also, okay, so in the time that we've been talking, someone from another universe has traveled into this podcast. So it might not be, and as we know, it's not in this universe strand because we can't see them, they're not here. But in one of them...
Or are they? They may have absolute invisibility so that they can't interact with us.
That's another perfect point. Yes. It's also possible that some of them, or many of them, haven't exactly figured out how to get close to Earth yet. So they've teleported and they're just floating in some other galaxy far, far away.
No.
though,
So yeah, it's...
considering what you've said before, due to the infinite amounts of people who would theoretically be available,
Yeah.
at least one of them, or at least...
Infinite is a big number.
Yeah.
A fraction of infinite is infinite.
So theoretically, an infinite amount of people would still be on Earth. But the problem
Because
there
our
is-
universe splits so much,
Yeah.
they're not necessarily coming through to this exact strand.
And even if they were able to come into this exact strand, would they be able to interact with us at all? Or would we even be able to acknowledge their existence?
Yes. Yeah, that would be essentially one of us.
One of us. One of us.
Okay, so yeah, now these kind of people that are in our little universe strand, I reckon they can come in two forms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one, those that come here and live in our world simply because they enjoy or prefer it to their own universe. So think of your favourite book, and you live in that world opposed to this one.
My
that
favorite
would
book
be
does
fun.
not have a nice world in it.
Well, you understand. You understand my meaning.
Yes.
You choose a world that you prefer to this one, and you go and live there, and just live out your life because you prefer it that way. And so they don't make a fuss. They're just under the radar. The second type is those who come here with the knowledge of their universe and the advancements that they've made in that universe, and give it to this world to grant
For
them
glory
fame
and
and
fame.
fortune. Yes, that's so. Famous people could essentially be travelers from other universes.
But we're talking
which
about
is-
famous people like Nikola Tesla. We're not talking about.
I'm talking
dropkick.
precisely
We're
Nikola
not
Tesla
talking about
because
dropkick famous people.
no. I mean intelligent famous
Yes.
people. No, but I mean look
The great humans.
look at what Nikola Tesla did.
Mm.
He completely blew physics out of the water. He brought in radical ideas and proved them. So it's just kind of. I mean, there's plenty of proof for him being around, and I'm not saying he's from another universe, but it just makes you think.
It does make you think.
So,
See, my only problem with that is, how would that eventually work? Because as you said, seeing as there's an infinite amount of possibilities, but
There's also
I
an
have
infinitely
enough-
small amount of possibilities that it doesn't happen.
yeah,
it's almost a 50-50 with infinite on both sides.
I have another idea that, it's maybe a bit of a killjoy idea. Though, despite the fact that we have all these branching off universes,
Yeah.
that once they branch off, beyond the small interactions,
It's the
They
small
com-
interactions that allow you to travel between them.
yeah, but beyond that, it's impossible to actually travel between them.
No, but through the small interactions, you would then be able to travel
Are
between them.
you saying
It's-
creating a wormhole?
I don't know what I'm saying. I'm still looking into it.
Ah.
See,
Because-
I'm just at the base
Well,
level thinking about it. I
I'm-
thought
I'm-
about it on the train on the way in. I thought, hang on, this would be interesting if I tried this and this, which is how I got to traveling between the same
Another
universe,
idea.
kind of.
Another idea that I'm not sure how, scientifically correct this would be.
That was fine.
Yeah, I just think of the ideas as they come up.
Go on. Run with it.
As the unit, say we go back to the example of the electron going through both slits.
Right.
Could it be the case that after that universe is created, instead of branching off completely,
It ceases to exist.
or it comes back into our universe?
And that causes the interaction. That would be interesting.
So in other words,
That's perfect about it.
it's the whole universe splits and then immediately comes back together again.
That's possible.
And it's the interaction, and you know how you said there's an infinite amount of possibilities. So theoretically, you're in the game show. There's 3 doors, and you go through all 3 doors, and you also go up, and you also just leg it. Would it also?
I don't want to be here anymore.
Would it also be the case that due to the majority, the greatest probability that you go through the door you chose initially, that because that universe, say the universe is multiplying millions of times of each possibility, but seeing as that universe is so predominant, the other universes fold into that possibility. So it's like there's infinite choices, but fold into one.
I suppose that is possible. Now, but here's the counter argument. The effects that could have, seeing as it's not just traveling through the left or right slit the electron takes. There are many other possibilities that could happen. So I need to put a disclaimer here because this kind of gets slightly dark and slightly out there. So for those of you listening, do not try this at home. Although it is technically possible to do this, do not try it. I'm not saying do this in any way whatsoever, though we have the technology to do so. It's a thought experiment. It's like Schrodinger's cat. Just
don't actually do it.
Don't actually do it. This is just a thought experiment. And the reason why I'm saying this is because it's called quantum suicide.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I've told you about this, Chris.
I haven't heard about this.
Yes. So this states that you have a gun wired up to a detector which can detect whether an electron spins clockwise or counterclockwise, which is possible under the quantum theory. So an electron can spin both ways at the same time. So what happens is when the detector goes off, if it sees this electron spinning clockwise, the gun will fire. If it sees it spinning counterclockwise, the gun won't go off.
For clarification, the gun is pointed at your head.
Yes, hence suicide. So what happens is you switch the machine on. The universe splits. In one universe, it sees it spinning clockwise. In the other universe, it sees it spinning counterclockwise. In one of those universes, you die. In the other universe, you live. This can then be repeated continuously. You will always live in one universe, and the other you will theoretically die in every time it goes off.
But here's the way I think about it, because see, is the simplification of the model there is the fact that there's only one thing that's really splitting, because when it comes to that possibility, say the gun fires, and the universe splits between the choice of you actually getting hit and you ducking the bullet, or something like that.
You're not ducking.
You're not ducking. You're going to.
You're dying. You take the bullet.
But seeing as there's an infinite amount of possibilities, as you said before, almost anything could happen. There's a chance that you're just suddenly not there. There's a chance that you duck the bullet. There's a chance that you somehow move. Because the problem with that thought experiment is the fact that I know what you're trying to do there. You're trying to say that as each universe splits, it becomes its own separate entity because in one you're dead and one you're alive.
Yeah. If you combine those two, then you then end up with you're both dead and alive.
Yeah. Just like Schrodinger's cat. But
there'll be one where you duck the bullet and you die because you hit your head on a buzzsaw, which was somehow well placed.
Because everybody holds a buzzsaw in front of their face just in case they miss with the gun.
No, see, the arguments are just as strong for the other way.
Yeah, because the way I see it, humans as we know are made up of electrons, protons, blah 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 blah. Most people know that from their physics lessons or what little physics they did yet. We're all made up of
Or
particles.
chemistry.
Or chemistry, yeah. And the fact is, each of those particles has electrons, and each of those electrons make choices. And, there's a great idea that I do like, which is the fact that, at any one point in time, a hurricane could come through this room, just for no reason in particular, redecorate all the furniture, and leave the place better than it started with.
Yes.
That is theoretically possible.
This
Or a hippo could come down that vomits rainbows.
Exactly.
Again, this is all
almost
theory.
anything can happen. And so, for almost every single activity, every single idea, every single thought, millions of possibilities spread out. But as going back to this, what I was talking about before, as each of the million ideas spread out, there are some paths that are more likely than others. For example,
No, they're not. They're all equally as likely.
Listen to what I say.
Okay.
Because
I'll let you-
whilst
sorry.
theoretically a hurricane could come through here and redecorate all the furniture, as I said, at the same time, that is a very strange electron movement compared to something like us standing up.
Yes.
There's more probability of us standing up because there are more instances where we stand up than there are of the hurricane coming through the room. So the way I see it, say the hurricane appears. Okay, we're going to deal with infinite terms here, but I'm going to deal with
That's the problem when it comes with
I'm going to deal with
probability.
multiplications of infinite. So say the hurricane appears 1 times infinite times, because theoretically that would happen. But us standing up happens 10 times infinite times, 10 times infinity, because we theoretically would stand up a lot more often than a hurricane would come through the room. Therefore, wouldn't the universes fold more likely into us standing up in the room rather than the hurricane? And as a result, would it be more likely that if you did point the gun at your head and the gun both went off and didn't go off, the most likely option would be chosen? So either it's more likely that the electron would spin clockwise or anti-clockwise. And that option, instead of 2 universes being formed, the 2 universes are briefly formed, but at the same time it collapses on back to the most likely universe, which is the one where, say, you die.
Now, take into consideration, sorry, this is going on for ages. Take into consideration that the probabilities are equal.
If the probability
Because it's infinitely large, that any possibility could happen, everything is equal. Therefore, in my mind, I see that the only way they can coexist is by not existing together necessarily.
Well, not exactly. You're starting to get detracted from the multiple universe theory here, but in terms of infinity, there is actually an entire branch of mathematics which is dedicated to infinite probabilities. So,
Is it?
yes, and
Oh, cool.
50-50, that's not true. If you have an infinitely small probability that occurs an infinite number of times, and the rest of the chances are also occurring on an infinite number of times, it still has a smaller probability of happening. It's infinitely smaller, and you still have an infinite number of chances of it happening, but it's still a smaller probability. And then another point to make, in the electron and counterclockwise, that's perfectly 50-50.
Yeah.
Which is very different to us standing up. Which also takes into account what is the absolute determinacy of our universe. Because there is absolutely no chance that something can happen if it has not been set up. It is absolutely impossible for my phone to fall 10 centimeters if I don't lift it up 10 centimeters. In the same way, are the air currents going to move in the correct way? But then, of course, things can occur randomly. What is the level of randomness within our universe? At what level does it occur? We know that it does not occur at the atomic level. So, is there a level of randomness, or is absolutely everything predictable?
That's another argument entirely.
That's another one.
Yeah.
We gotta
And
save that for another time.
we should probably come back to this next week.
No, let's talk about it right now. We'll take up another hour of your time, good listener.
Well, as much
Just an hour?
as much as we'd
We're
like
trying
to,
to shorten it.
as much as we'd like to, we do have classes now. So
We'll summarize the opening
Yay.
points.
Yeah.
Oh well, we'll do this again next week. It might not be on similar topics, or I mean, today was a bit of a.
Today was a very physics-heavy discussion.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going
And then-
games science. Well, what do you think we should focus on next week? There's a question for you.
Tune in next week to find it.
Yeah. We haven't even thought of
Turn
this.
that off now.
Yeah.
So we're Explosive Combination. I'm Chris.
I'm Chris.
I'm Luke.
And thank you for listening to our second podcast. Woo! Bleep, bleep. We're on a roll. Yes, we've got a second one. If you'd like us to talk about any topics, or have any questions to ask, or just want to say, hi, you're awesome.
Or ask us about
Hi,
cats.
you're awesome is really good.
Drop us a comment. Drop us
leave
an email.
leave us a comment in the comments below.
Send us a post-it.
A post-it.
Yeah,
I
just,
love-
send us a post-it.
Have
if
you ever
want.
actually gotten a post-it? Because I have actually gotten a post-it, as in a post-it inside a letter.
Okay. Well, they don't
It's
know where
pretty
we
cool.
are. So anyway,
I hope not.
You can also contact us from our Gmail account, explosivecombination@gmail.com. And what else is there? Oh, also subscribe and like, because we think if we get enough subscribers or likes or views or something,
People will actually be able to find our video on YouTube.
yes,
For a start.
yes. And if we get high enough, we might actually buy some better audio equipment
Yes.
from.
Yes, that would be nice.
We've
'Cause at
made,
the
we've made a
moment
bit of a promise amongst ourselves. If we get enough subscribers and enough stuff, then the audio quality will increase. And
Yay!
but I'm not sure if you should do that because I will have to start editing the program now.
Well, come on, I'm editing at the moment.
Well, it is your phone.
We're currently doing this on a phone. It's low tech.
Yes.
So
Low tech, doing it on a phone.
actually, I just realised the hour.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Thank
So
you
thank
very
you for
much
listening.
for listening. Yes.
yes, thank you for listening.
Thank you. We do appreciate
Also,
it.
yes, we do. We very much appreciate it.
Yeah.
All
Also,
35
check out
of you.
our last week's video. We were talking about the. Oh, I've already mentioned this earlier. But yeah, check out last week's video talking about the EV Expo and what else? Warp drives and self-confidence. So yeah, we'll see you next week and have a nice day.
Goodbye.
Yes.
Bye.
Goodbye, but not good riddance.
Well.
Oh, don't say that about Margaret.
Oh, good riddance. See ya.
Bye.